program director panel for this week. We're so excited to have you, and we're so excited to have four amazing program directors talk to you tonight about their programs. So it's nice to see some familiar faces, but also some new faces from Monday night's panel. So just to kind of go over some of the logistics of how tonight's session will run. My name is Jake. I'm a fourth year student at Rocky Vista University College of Osteopathic Medicine in Colorado.
And my name's Cindy. I'm a fourth year medical student at Ohio University Heritage College of Osteopathic Medicine.
And we are both part of the NMatach leadership team this year. And so we're just going to kind of quickly go over some introductions and program overviews. So we'll have each of the program directors kind of give a quick 5-minute overview of their program and then open it up to a Q&A session for the rest of the evening. So if you don't already know, NMatach is a medical student-run initiative that was funded back during the residency cycle of 2020 to 2021. And since then, we have really strived to promote online networking, education, and information sharing within the neurology community and providing resources for both adult and child neurology residency applicants. And so some of our initiatives include a mentorship program, an events calendar, where we kind of feature all the open houses that are happening. This week is a really busy week, it looks like, for open houses on our calendar. And then we also like to feature our programs, both adult and child neuro. And then we also like to have some educational panels, so resident panels, program director panels. And we're so excited to have this panel tonight. And then we'll have one more at the end of this week to round out our program director panels. And so I just want to introduce quickly our panelists for this evening. We have Dr. Mike Greger, who's at the University of Tennessee, and Dr. Goldstein, who's at the University of Minnesota, Dr. Gilmore, who's at Case Western Reserve for University Hospitals, Rainbow Babies, and we have Dr. Scott Otala, who's at Wake Forest. And so I think what we'll do now is, Dr. Gilmore, do you want to go first and share your screen and slides and talk about your program, and then I'll share the screen for the rest of the programs?
No problem. And, are we sharing?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, good, good. So we're part of University Hospitals and Case Western University. It's a lot of names. So I basically, when I'm talking to patients, I say I'm from Rainbow, and everyone knows what that means. We were established in 1887. One thing that I'll actually say up front is, one of the things I always tell people when they're interviewing is, I'm not aware of any bad programs. So I don't think you have to worry about that. But you do want to find a program who fits you. So for instance, that includes the hospital, and hospital size makes a significant difference in terms of like the way, like how busy you're going to be on round, things like that. I would describe this as a medium-sized hospital, 244 hospital beds. On the pediatric side, there are smaller hospitals with much larger hospitals. We're a medium-sized program. And one of the things that will also vary between different programs is we are integrated into an adult hospital. Some people like being independent. I personally like being integrated into an adult hospital, particularly, for instance, when I'm on service. It does make getting certain services like MRI scans done after hours on weekends, things like that, significantly easier. Because if you're standalone children's hospitals, you don't always pay like an MRI tech to be sitting around not doing scans. But since the adult hospital uses those services all the time, we can use them as well. So that will vary from place to place. We are a 5-year categorical program. We currently have 1 trainee per year, but we've applied to expand to 2. We have strong adult and pediatric neurology, pediatric residency program that we're associated with, and we're very flexible on various rotations. One of the things that makes us different than most programs, if not unique, is we have 3 different courses that we offer during training. There's a neuroscience course where you go work with the medical students for about 8 weeks. There's the EEG course and an EMG course. And so these are actually didactic courses where you get lectures on how to read EEGs and EMGs, where you are just working with we're doing that, and you don't really have much clinical responsibility at that time. So you really get to focus and learn that well. It's pretty daunting in the beginning because I watch the students go through it every year. The trainees go through it every year where they, first they have really no idea what they're doing in the beginning, and then by week 4, week 5, they're really getting the hang of it. And I have a lot of experience with them reading EEGs because that's what we do in PEDS a lot. And our residents, they're not just looking for seizures; they're doing background analysis, and is this a normal newborn background, 6-month-old background? They really learn EEGs really well. Assuming they learn EMGs as well, we just don't do that as much. So that's one thing that our students are really good at. We have continuity clinic that lasts entire training for the last 3 years. There's no restrictions to the types of patients you see as long as you're willing to take care of them. And we have basically an on-site and then we do an off-site clinic as well to increase the diversity of patients you see. Speaking of diversity, we see a lot of different types of patients. We have urban families, recent immigrants, not just from traditional Latin American countries. We actually have a significant number of Ukrainians. There's a big Ukrainian population in one of our towns, so we see, that's another example of families. We also see rural families, including Amish. The Amish are very interesting because they have very specific genetic disorders associated with it, and there's a clinic that our attendings will go out and staff out there that our people work through. And again, when in clinic, you can see people with very severe neurological conditions and very routine neurological conditions as well. I'm not going to show you all the different kind of clinics we see, but I will point out our neurogenetics clinic, which is run by Dr. DeBrose. She trained with us as a child neurologist and then decided to do genetics. So she has an obvious interest in genetic disorders, so she's good to work with. We also have a new division chief who actually is dual trained along in metabolism as well. So he's new to us, but he's going to be a good person to work with for training in terms of learning the metabolic disorders. Our graduates have done both academic and private practice. Most of our trainees, if they do go to fellowship, do epilepsy, usually within our own institution. And so far, knock on wood, all of our trainees have passed the boards on the first try. So we participate in research, clinical trials into epilepsy, migraines, and other disorders, and we're offering cutting edge technology and to our patients in both spinal muscular atrophy and Duchenne's muscular dystrophy gene therapy, for instance. Finally, our GME office has programs for our trainees, particularly if they're struggling with mental health issues. We're very supportive of our trainees in that respect as well. Finally, the other thing is going to vary from program to program is the city you live in. You want to be happy in the city you live in. Cleveland itself is a medium-sized city, ethnically diverse, and quite affordable to live in compared to other cities. One of the things that I always tell our residents is basically the resident salary makes you automatically middle class, which gives you a reasonable lifestyle. And most of our residents live within a relatively short distance, driving distance, and some even walking distance to work. We do have 3 professional sports teams if you're into that, if you're including the Browns as a professional sports team these days. I'm not sure I would, but they try. We have an excellent world-class symphony. Our museums, top-notch. Travel and Leisure listed us as one of the top 10 foodie destinations last year. And believe it or not, we have the largest theater district outside of New York. So lots of shows come through. And then for people who like doing outdoor stuff, plenty of stuff to do, including metro parks. We actually have a national park that's very short distance. It's actually almost an urban park. And then, of course, Lake Erie is lots of things to do. So I'm sure my email is available to anyone who's interested if there's any specific questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Gilmore. Let me see. The first one that I have popped up on my screen is Dr. McGregor, University of Tennessee. Is that okay if you go next?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. Let me share my screen.
Nice to see everybody's faces.
Let me share. All right. All right. So you just let me know when I should go to the next slide and we'll have a...
Right. So I'm Dr. McGregor, University of Tennessee Health Science Center in Memphis. And you can take me to the next slide. The next slide has lots of names on it. I don't expect you to know all these, but what I'm trying to convey with this is we have all the subspecialties covered. And I put some names in bold because we have a number of Chinese who have graduated and then stayed on faculty. So you can see we have a nice mix. We have a lot of people who stay around, but we also have a nice, broad plates coming from other places as well. So to the next one. All right, so we have a 10-bed epilepsy monitoring unit. I'm an epilepsy person, so I'm excited about that. We're level 4. We have intraop MRI, so we actually do all the brain tumor surgeries for St. Jude at our location. We have a ROSA robot, stereo EEG. We do RNS, including thalamic RNS. We've got a lot of technology like our functional MRI, MEG, TMS, SPECT. The picture here is Shalini. She's a TMS expert. She's actually internationally known for her TMS work. And if you're interested in it, you can rotate with her. You can do rotations. You can do research with her as well. You can go to the next slide. So as far as preparing to be with us after you've been with peds, this is actually some simulations with the adult side. We do lectures to help prepare you for being with us after being on peds, like some emergency lectures. We give you some time to kind of get to know us. We also do the ACNS boot camp, ENLS boot camp. And then I can take you to some more pictures here. Okay, so this is the ACNS boot camp, one of my residents and fellows doing that, and then some simulations. So we have like a stroke, ICH, you can do lumbar puncture if you want to, you can do papilledema if you want to. So we've got a number of different simulations. You can go to the next one. So we try and make you very comfortable when you come. So we remind all the attendings, like you're going to be called, and we tell all the new residents to call for everything. When you start, we tell them call for everything. So you don't have to question yourself, are you going to call or not call? When you first come, you're going to call for everything. And then you gradually get more responsibility and you don't have to call as much. But there's always at least 2 attendings on call. And then I'm always available by phone call if needed to. And when you're a first new resident with us, we pair you with a senior resident. For at least the first month, we try and do a number of months where you overlap with a senior resident as well. And then I have had some fun making some welcome mugs with little brain using some AI. I give out a lot of socks, mugs, that sort of thing. I'm having a lot of fun with the creative AI. And you can go to the next slide. Education is really important to us, to me. So there are a number of different series you can do. You can do our grand rounds with our division. You can do, of course, neurology grand rounds. You can do peds grand rounds. You can even do neurosurgery if you want. We have also a smaller lectures where we do, which is with the residents. And sometimes that is like learning the brachial plexus. And sometimes it's just hanging out and having lunch. But we have a neurophysiology lecture series, our EMU conference. There's a residence as teachers program. So if you're interested, it's like a series of modules and you can get kind of an award at the end. And there's also Department of Medical Education if you want to go into more details than that series does. This picture here is taken from our EMU conference. So, all right, we can go to the next one. Our continuity clinic is also on Thursday. So it's kind of Thursdays is a nice day for the residents because they spend almost the whole day with us. And then all the residents spend time together in continuity clinic. You have your own patients, but we also do a lot of celebrating and birthdays and that sort of thing afterwards. And that's a protected time. Go to the next slide. So a lot of words, but we have a lot of specialty clinics. We have a headache center. We're a tuberous sclerosis center of excellence. We have MDA, a neurogenetics clinic. We're infantile epilepsy center, stroke clinic, MS center. There's this really exciting initiative between St. Jude and us, the Pediatric Translational Neuroscience Initiative. It's actually got several different names, but basically they're doing a lot of translational work at St. Jude. And so they see patients with us. And then it's really nice to have these world-class physicians come and do lectures and see patients with us. We also have a wide variety of clinics you can go to. So when you're doing your clinic month, you can basically choose to do it at any location. So you can do it at our downtown location, and the suburbs are some of our outlying clinics. And then you can go to the next slide. So we try and get everybody involved in QI. If it's not your thing, you can just do a small part and jump in with someone else. If it is your thing, we'll provide lots of help. There are several people who are certified in QI, doing QI research projects. If you're interested in research, there's a whole research week where you can learn how to do research and work on an actual project. You can do a research month if you want to. So lots of opportunities to present that research as well. If you're interested in educational research, we also have that. You're fine. So we're also really interested in wellness. We have a chief wellness officer for UT, Jessie Gold. Some people may know her. She's written a book. We have wellness committees. So we've got a couple people in the division who are on that. The PEDS program director is very interested in wellness. It's kind of her thing that she does. And so she's carried that on, even though she's the program director now. We've done some book clubs, including Brene Brown Book Club, free counseling services. There's actually a psychologist who comes pretty often each year, and he kind of talks about some time management, wellness tips, all kinds of different things. Get free access to the Calm app. Everybody gets a mentor, and we do a lot of wellness activities. This is a large park that's nearby us. Even has buffalo there. And they can move on to the next one. All right, this is something I did one time. Don't ask me where I got the idea, but we did Mentos and mentoring. So everybody had good breath while we went around. We learned different neurology topics. We talked about like our favorite neurologist and favorite movie and that sort of thing. And then you can go to the next one. So a lot of different wellness things, like I said, make the socks. So this was my St. Patrick's Day 4-leaf brain sock creation, but we do a lot of like going to the coffee shop and hanging out and talking about Brene Brown book, celebrate a lot of weddings and babies. This other picture down here at the bottom, we do root cause analysis every year for our QI. So we have our Rooting for You socks, and then some different activities we've done at noon and hanging out at Dr. Revis's house on the lake. You can go to the next one. All right, this is another one of those ideas. I asked Dr. Schrader to talk about astronomy and wellness because he was really interested in astronomy. And I had this kind of grand idea, like, and basically a t-shirt covers it. Like, you are here. This is, there's a big universe out there. You're here. There's something much beyond, residency is very a small part of the whole universe. And so I was trying to get to convey that, and he did a much better job than I did. But we also had like space related food, and it was a lot of fun. All right, and then you can do the next one. So a lot of parties, birthday parties, karaoke, got a karaoke machine behind me, Christmas parties, graduation parties, and the bottom one is a neurology theme party. And if you interview with us, I'll tell you about it. So, all right, that's it.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. McGregor. Dr. Goldstein, would you like to go next?
Sure.
Let me share. Sorry, of course, there's always technical difficulties, right?
You're good.
Unfortunately, there will be more coming during the interview season, inevitably. So it's good to
Right.
get used to
We're all preparing now.
in the age of
There we
virtual
go.
interviews.
Right.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Goldstein. I'm the program director at the University of Minnesota. I'm actually going to start differently than I had planned. Before I begin sharing our program with you, I just want to take a minute to acknowledge the events that happened today in our city at a local school and church. We're all really heartbroken and grieving with the kids and families and the teachers and the community that was impacted by this. And for me, moments like this really remind me of why training compassionate physicians who are advocates matters very deeply. Our work is ultimately about caring for people in the communities when they need us most. And many of our residents and colleagues did that today. And for me, kind of like renewed my hope that part of our program will include training future advocates for children's health, which I think is incredibly important in our society right now. So I'm going to kind of shift gears. I had more of like a fun presentation planned, but today has been a really tragic, heartbreaking day in my state. So next slide. So we are a residency that has come out of hibernation over the last couple of years, and we are really committed to preparing the future leaders of child neurology to contribute meaningfully to our field through clinical excellence in alignment with their individual passions. Next slide. And so what I'm going to do, because I only have a few minutes, is take you through our residency program by the numbers. And I just like to point out, because I know that Minnesota has a reputation of being snowy and cold, that we do actually have all 4 seasons, as you can see by the pictures on my slide. And Minnesota and Minneapolis is an absolutely beautiful place to live with lovely communities and people. Next slide. And I can talk to you about the state fair at length at another time, or if anyone has a question about what to eat while you're there. All right, so number 5, we are a 5-year categorical program. We are fortunate to be with an incredibly strong pediatrics program and an adult neurology program. You kick off your years with the neurology group at the American Academy of Neurology headquarters, which is where we house our boot camp alongside the adult neurology trainees. And we through all 5 years, give you the opportunity to really travel along different pathways if they align with your passions, whether that be global health, justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, and advocacy, medical education and leadership, and research, QA, and scholarship. And while all of these components are part of the core curriculum, many of them have dedicated pathways that allow you to do a deeper dive if those are things that you're interested in. We also have an academic half day that's part of the program for all 5 years. The first 2 years takes place with the general pediatrics residents. The last 3 years is in sort of alignment with the adult neurology program, but with individual sessions depending on the topic, and includes lots of fun things, including gingerbread rounds. We do Botox workshops. We do a write review escape room every year. And so a lot of opportunity to not just learn, but come together as a community. All right, next slide. All right, we actually are a program that takes place across 4 diverse educational sites. The University of Minnesota is sort of the main hub. You do both adult and child neurology rotations there, as well as pediatrics rotations. The University of Minnesota houses a number of our specialty clinics and has a rare disease designation. We have a leukodystrophy center that receives patients from across the world, as well as a neuromuscular center that takes care of kids from across the state and surrounding states. Hennepin Healthcare, HCMC, is our safety net hospital in one of our major trauma centers for children. It is the other location for both child and adult neurology, as well as your pediatrics rotations. Children's Minnesota is a large academic affiliated pediatric hospital. And that's in a place where you actually have the opportunity to work with physicians outside of academics. So that actually the neurologists that work there both are part of private practices. And so you get the opportunity to see what it's like to provide care in a private practice, community-based setting. We're really lucky that the physicians that work at those groups are like incredibly excited and dedicated to education and partnering with us and giving you the opportunity to explore those ways that you can practice neurology. And then finally, Gillette Children's is a specialty care hospital for kids with neurological and medical complexity. It's a very unique hospital. It's an opportunity to take care of incredibly complicated neurology. And they have a number of really cool multidisciplinary subspecialty clinics. There's a lot of opportunities to work with PM&R, work with kids with cerebral palsy, amongst many other conditions, and ultimately really learn a lot about disability advocacy and how to coordinate care for kids with that need. We also are housed within a very diverse metropolitan area with a number of refugee and immigrant populations. And each of these healthcare facilities takes care of different communities. So you really do have the opportunity to take care of kids from all communities. I think, as you were saying earlier, like, bread and butter neurology all the way to the ultra rare, but also to really experience what it's like to be a neurologist in different care settings. And then I don't think I mentioned this, but you actually do rotate at each of these hospitals through all 5 years of your training. So they become comfortable and a home for you. It's not that you're only at one for 1 year and one for another year. All right, next slide. We have taken our adult neurology rotations and spread them out over the 3 years that you are in neurology training. And we had the opportunity to do this for a couple different reasons. One is we felt like it gave you an opportunity to be embedded within the adult neurology class. It expands your cohort and welcomes you into those groups as well. And it also gives you the chance to experience neurology at different stages in your training with different knowledge, right? You know more when you're a PGY5 than when you're a PGY3. And so you can kind of come back to those adult neurology rotations with a different leadership lens, a different knowledge base, a different clinical experience, and maybe take something different away from it as you go along. So you'll do about 4 blocks a year, 2 blocks inpatient, 1 block outpatient, and a selective, which is sort of like neuroradiology or pathology. And those take place exclusively at the University of Minnesota in Hennepin County. And we've also begun to design rotations with our adult colleagues that really highlight all of the educational opportunities that the different sites have to offer. For example, we've been working with our geneticist colleagues to craft an adult neurogenetic outpatient rotation to see some of those rare neurogenetic disorders that you may not get to see as a child neurologist necessarily, or that are kids that grow up to be adults, and see what that care looks like on the other side. Your child neurology rotations will take place across all 4 sites. And really, we are really lucky that we get to design a choose your own adventure moment here where you can fully experience what each educational site has to offer. So while some sites might excel at surgical epilepsy, other sites excel at rare diseases or complex care. And as a trainee, you get to experience it all. Each year has at minimum 3 blocks of child neurology consult service, 1 to 2 blocks of child neuro outpatient, and then 4 to 6 selectives or electives, allowing a lot of individualization and flexibility in your training experience. And I'm just going to highlight the picture on the left with the people smiling at the tables, our new Continuum Club, which is like they're getting together and talking about the latest issue of Continuum, which I geekily was very excited about and then missed the meeting. So I'm like going to the next one because it's about movement disorders. So everyone should come. All right, next slide. All right, we recruit 2 residents per class, and we were in our first match last year. You can see our 2 residents over to the side here. But what I wanted to highlight on this is you are being welcomed into a huge community of faculty and residents that are so excited to have child neurology resident colleagues. And our child neurology residents have the opportunity to be with the pediatric residents, with our adult neurology residents, but also with our faculty who are exceptionally excited to have trainees and have the ability to train this next generation of child neurologists. And then next slide. And then finally, our continuity clinic. We have 1 continuity clinic. It is at a very cool clinic called the Masonic Institute of the Developing Brain. This is a gorgeous facility that's located on the riverbank of the Mississippi River in Minneapolis. It's a multidisciplinary space that is completely dedicated to the pediatric neurosciences. And like you'll have this half day of clinic a week, but you're embedded in this space where you're learning and practicing along all of your colleagues in developmental behavioral pediatrics, neuropsychology, psychiatry, psychology. We're beginning to build some team-based care. And so this is really a novel place to learn and grow your own child neurology patient panel and practice. Next slide. So this is my very short commercial for our program. We are hosting our open house next week. So if you would like to learn a lot more detail about the University of Minnesota, our program, I'm happy to answer questions tonight, but I'm also would be thrilled to see you next week to learn a little bit more in detail. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Goldstein. Let's see. Okay, Dr. Rotala, do you want to end out the presentations for
Yes,
us?
and I kept my slides very short, so it'll let us have some time.
Good.
We are happy also to answer questions just about the application cycle and things more generally. You know, this is not all focused on our programs for those who are here. That we cannot. You have to recognize how hard it is for a program director to talk about their program for only 5 minutes. And so I limited my number of slides because I knew I would talk about each slide way more than the number of minutes that I was assigned. And so I just have 4 slides to keep myself under control. Just to reflect on some of the things other folks have said, I'll add a little bit into what I've created here. So we are Wake Forest Brenner Children's Hospital. We're in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Be delighted to have anyone come and visit. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So I'm going to hit on a bunch of highlights on this one slide. So we are all on a single hallway, all on the same floor. You can do all of your rotations at a single site, and we get to know our colleagues and our residents incredibly well. You are mentoring with one of our faculty from year 1, and we follow you all the way through your training. And so it is a big hospital, but a small community that is very tight-knit. Our faculty are really committed to medical education, and as our chair likes to say, our faculty will give you the shirt off of their backs. Many of our faculty have won teaching awards last year. 4 out of 6 teaching awards for the Gold Humanism Award were neurology residents. And so our department is all about teaching the next generation of neurologists and child neurologists. We are part of an adult neurology department, and so we get to take advantage of a lot of rich resources. Similar to other people here, we're a mid-sized program with 2 residents per year. It's a very resident-driven program, so not very many fellows who are going to be making decisions. You have a lot of autonomy. All of our call is overnight is home call. And so that is, there's always somebody there to back you up. But once you have the knowledge, you can use that knowledge and make decisions independently. And that's something that our residents and fellows do a great job with. We do call them fellows in their 4th and 5th year, so that gets a little confusing. But it's not fellow driven in the terms of epilepsy fellows or movement disorder fellows. We have those on the adult side, but on child neurology side, it's all driven by our residents and fellows. We really can individually tailor our training. We have an incredible number of subspecialty opportunities and an incredible number of electives that go along with those, and enough outpatient time and flexibility that people can really tailor their training in whatever direction they would like. And we've done that very successfully. We actually have a current faculty member who was able to be certified as a neuro-ophthalmologist and then go on to practice as a neuro-ophthalmologist, for example, after his 5 years of training in pediatric neuro-ophthalmology. We are all integrated into child neurology from your 3rd year. So your adult training is mixed between your 3rd and 4th year. But you have a seat in our shared workspace for our residents from PGY 3 year, and you were attending all of our conferences. And that was something our current PGY 3s really wanted me to emphasize, is how integrated they feel into the community. We already knew them coming out of their PEDS years, but they're part of us. They're part of the larger adult neurology cohort as well. But we're seeing them twice weekly, every week, for our dedicated pediatric neurology conferences, in addition to the conferences that they have along with adult neurology that are part of an academic half day and then spread throughout the week as well. We also have some really cool opportunities, like others have mentioned. We have something called the Penry Epilepsy course that probably many residents you can see the other program directors nodding. Many people have sent their residents to yearly. All of our residents get to attend that if they want to, because it's there in Winston-Salem. It's a destination epilepsy course that people send their residents to from across the country. We also have some of the world leaders in neuro ultrasound at our center. And so people also will send residents and faculty to learn about both neurovascular ultrasound, critical care ultrasound, neuromuscular ultrasound at Wake Forest. And all those courses are free to our residents and a really great opportunity for them to take advantage of. We're also one of the few programs, as much as we love our adult colleagues, pediatricians do not ever want to be the only one in the hospital. I was that person many times. Don't ever want to be the only one in the hospital taking care of all of the adult patients at night. So one of the few programs, and this may be becoming less and less true, but one of the few programs at the point that we established it with no in-house adult neurology call, where you're the only one covering at any point during your training. Our graduates, go on to the next slide for me, please. So here's a list of the buffet of different subspecialists and subspecialty clinics we have, the very advanced epilepsy care that we have, including the MEG, which is one of the few centers around that has a MEG for localizing for epilepsy surgery, one of the first centers to use laser ablation, among a whole variety of other clinics. Because of this exposure across the child neurology group and the adult neurology group, our graduates have gotten interested in all sorts of subspecialties. And so in recent years, we've had residents all thankfully get into their first choice fellowships if they did go on to fellowship. We're about 50-50 between private practice and academic in our graduates. But last year, our graduates got to go to their first choices. One went into peds neurocritical care at WashU. One went to the Harvard program for headache. And the year before that, we sent somebody to Texas Children for epilepsy, among other locations that our folks have gone into pediatric stroke and neuromuscular and so on. Go on to the next slide. So our residents are really happy people. They're a wonderful group. I can't say enough good things about them. I hope you'll come and meet them on the interview day. Winston-Salem is really an undervalued and underknown location to live, and the cost of living is actually extremely affordable compared to a very generous salary. And so our residents can really live a very comfortable life, have a backyard for their dogs, send their kids if they have kids to childcare, all those sorts of things that might be a little bit more challenging in really large metropolitan areas. So I really love being in a small city for that reason. And I'll leave it at that.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ortella. Thank you so much to all of our panelists for giving a little intro on their program. I will open it up now to the rest of the people on the call. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. If you're feeling brave and you want to go on the mic and share your, what question you have, feel free to do that as well. Jonathan, go ahead.
Hello. I feel like it's the hot ticket question that all program directors get. What are your thoughts on signaling?
So I don't know if you want to call us out or if we want us to throw it out there.
Sure, Dr. Ortella, do you want to start?
Okay. I'm passionate about most of these questions, and I've already done one of these panels this year. But I'm also a clerkship director, so I get caught in the middle on both sides of this. And so, again, I think it's very very personalized because we only have three signals in child neurology. What I generally don't recommend is using them all for very highly competitive programs because they're going to have a disproportionate number of the signals, and therefore the signals will be valued less. That being said, if you absolutely need to go to a very highly competitive program, a top-ranked program, by not signaling, you may be a little bit further down in their list. That being said, I will say child neurology program directors, when we meet, we say that I believe this is truly what happens, but I'm not in anybody else's application review. We really try to review applications holistically. And so again, I don't think that there's anybody at this point who's not reviewing applications below a certain step 2 score, for example. And so again, you have a shot to go wherever you want. I will say that probably the time I hear people bemoan their signals the most is when they thought that they were going to get an interview somewhere and they really wanted to go to that program, but they used their signal for somewhere else because they thought they were going to get that interview. And so if you're going to have that feeling, that's really at least one or two of your signals. I would make sure to use them for those places. And then the biggest thing probably is we look at regions, we look at your hometown. The biggest thing is like let us know why you might want to come to our region if it's not otherwise obvious and you haven't signaled our region. Make sure we know something that would make us think that you might want to be interested in our program because some people are applying broadly across the board. And then finally, you're going to get lots of interviews at places that you didn't signal because we only have three signals. And you'll get interviews at places that aren't within your region as well. And so it's not the end all and be all within our specialty. I think that's a fairly good summary. I'm happy for anybody to add.
Yeah, I was just gonna add, I agree with everything you just said. The biggest thing for me is like I want residents to be in a place or students to be in a place where they're going to thrive and flourish and be happy. And so like if that place is Minnesota because your family is here, I want to know that. It won't necessarily change. I mean, like I holistic review all the things Scott said, but I really like we want you guys to be successful during residency. And so sometimes having that little bit of like background is just helpful to know. And it's also like I would say like I've seen many times where there's a match and there's none of that, right? Like there's like I ended up moving to Seattle and who knew I wanted to be in Seattle, but like and that's okay. So I do think it's like just be authentic if those are the places you really want to go or will be devastated if you know you didn't do it and you wish you had. Those are the signals to give, I think.
So let me explain it from our perspective as a program director to basically explain why these things are important. If I have an excellent candidate who they've got, they did incredibly well in medical school, they're really smart, but they've always lived in Southern California, they've always done all their stuff in Southern California. Why are they going to come to Cleveland? Like basically, they're probably not. So I'm not going to bother interviewing them because they're probably not coming here. if they give me some indication they might come here, then we're more likely to interview. Because we only have so many interview spots. We don't, and Zoom interviews are so easy that basically we don't want to interview people who don't have any intention of coming to our program. And so we're never going to go back to in-person interviews, but if someone came to us in an in-person interview, we know they were serious. The problem is it's so easy to do Zoom interviews. You don't have to be serious to interview at a program, and we don't want to waste our interview slot for someone who's probably not going to come here. So that's why the geographic signaling, and so for instance, let's say you grew up in Southern California, but you moved, you moved at some point, and then you always, or you lived in multiple places. You're allowed to list multiple hometowns too. So if you've lived in multiple places and might want to go back there, if you listed that as a hometown, we're going to say, oh, that might be why that's why they're applying to our program. We're not just one of their safety programs. So there's strategies you can use to kind of indicate, hey, I'm actually, I have family in Chicago, or I grew up in Chicago. Like giving those indications can be really important if you're interested in going back to Chicago, for instance. So that's why it's important that from just to explain from our perspective, because again, I would love to interview people but if they're not going to come to us, why bother interviewing them?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
But just to reiterate what Scott said, I mean, we know you only have 3 signals. So we personally, yes, we're going to be interviewing a lot of people who didn't signal us probably.
Well, I have a question. There's no questions in the chat right now, but I'm curious what each of you, I know we were going to kind of have these questions directed more towards each program director, but I'd be curious what each of you are most excited about in the next few years in your program.
That's tough. I keep trying to recruit my residents to stay on faculty, so that's still happening. I'm super excited about that. I'm still trying to brainstorm new cool things like the Mentos and mentoring and my neurology games. And we actually do a bingo game with the ped side. So I'm still always trying to come up with new creative things for each year. So, but to be determined.
We're a new program, and so I'm actually incredibly excited to partner with my first few classes of trainees, including the class we're recruiting in this match cycle, and how we're going to build that program in terms of the culture we want to create, the opportunities that a new program can present in terms of being creative, considering what current child neurologists need to do, because we're not stuck with the way it's always been in some ways. And so that is both kind of scary and also kind of amazing, because we get to kind of take it and run with it. And so I am really excited to see how that all comes together, as we have our first class is actually currently PGY2s. So they'll be transitioning into neurology next summer and starting to really build from there. And then, hoping that I get to see over time that community of child neurologists grow that started in our program. And so I think immediately just really excited about that partnering with our new residents and building a new program.
It's really fun. We've been here a while, but it's fun. We've had our old residents who've graduated and gone to practice, and I have them come back and lecture. Sometimes it's Zoom, but sometimes it's in person. And it's so much fun because you get to see what they're doing and how much they've learned, but to catch up with each other. So it is nice to see, as they go out into their own little worlds and then come back and touch base.
Yeah, it makes like a spiderweb network as you're going out. So.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it at 3 different levels quickly that are kind of crossing what's been said already. So we have some of our former trainees who are faculty, and so getting to see them practice and how much they've already grown is something I'm really excited about in the coming years. I'm part of an initiative through the American Academy of Neurology, a group of clerkship directors and program directors who put together a resident education training set of modules. And so we are instituting that within our curriculum more specifically. We've already had our residents participating in it as part of the national program so they can get the AN certificate. So that's something I'm really excited to introduce in the coming academic year more formally. And then something that's really warmed my heart and I'm looking forward to for this interview season and in coming years is that I'm getting my first applicants who were inspired by trainees who I trained.
Mhm.
And that's incredibly heartwarming. Like the first people, some of the people that I have inspired to go into child neurology as medical students are now faculty and inspiring other people to go into child neurology. And I get to read letters of recommendation that they
Yes,
wrote. So
yes,
that's just incredibly heartwarming. So I look forward to
yeah,
that every year now.
yes. Yeah. Mhm.
I think one thing that's all of our programs are relatively small here, and it's actually hard to emphasize enough how important our trainees are in terms of the program because it's very different than being in like a general peds program or internal medicine program where there's like 30 classmates. Once it's really hard for one person to really kind of like have a big impact on how everyone does. But I can tell you that, when you have like one, two, maybe even three trainees per year, one or two trainees can make a big difference in changing the culture, both positively and negatively, actually, to be perfectly honest. But people who, the people that are coming through make actually a really big difference, particularly in smaller programs, because when there's only one or two people, like it's easy to make changes and do things and versus it's like when it's a big program, it's usually the chiefs that are making all the decisions. But when there's only one or two people, the individuals can make a big difference. So that's one thing I like about being because I trained in a small program and meaning like one or two people per year. So it's nice. I actually like that size. But
Yeah,
everyone's
thank you
different.
all.
Some people would like other things.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much for your all of your answers. I really appreciate it. It was funny on our Monday panel, we kind of had a battle of small programs versus big programs. We had two program directors at like four a year, and then the other two were one a year. So I was like, who's gonna win out? But it's not about winning. Everyone will
No,
find their spot.
It's about the right fit.
exactly.
Everyone will win. Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's what you want. It's like, do you want to be at a program where you walk in and where you see consults all day, every day, and then you're either seeing consults or rounding, or do you want to have some time to read? Like, because there's not one right way or wrong way to do it. And as I said, there's no bad training programs. The other thing too is to understand is even at relatively small programs. Again, I trained at a small program, everyone's a tertiary care center. So they're being sent stuff. You're being sent interesting cases from more distant hospitals because they don't know what to do. So none of the programs aren't tertiary care centers. So they're going to be, so even if they don't have a huge volume locally, they're going to be sent cases from outside because that's just the nature of places that have child neurology training programs.
Mhm.
So kind of going off that, I was wondering, with these, smaller groups of residents, what kind of residents do you guys find that really thrive in your programs?
I don't like to pin it down to a particular personality because we do have very different residents. They're kind of like my children, so they all are very special to me, and I can tell you about how each one is amazing. So there's not like one personality trait. I mean, I just want people who are going to be happier. That's
I think for our program, I mean, right now we're in a very unique phase, right? So I think that if you're looking at the University of Minnesota, the idea of being part of something new and growing, I would hope would be exciting to those that are coming, and that opportunity to really be involved in some of that culture creation and all of those kinds of things, and also really looking to those people to give feedback, right? Like that's how we're going to make sure we have all those pieces and parts in place. So I think at least for our first several classes, there's going to be a lot of that. Like I'm hoping that the people who apply and come are the people who are excited about that as part of their training experience and part of the opportunity that the residency offers. The other thing I would say is it is a multi-site program. So while those four hospitals are not that far apart, if you are a person that really wants to park in the same spot every single day to go to the same, like this is not a good fit because you are going to be at the four different sites for all 4 years. So I think just like kind of a knowing yourself thing, and if that's giving you, a mild panicky feeling, that might be a good challenge moment, or it might be like this might not be the place where I want to be challenged, and I'm just gonna go for a one site, and that's totally fine. Like Ed said, like there's no bad training programs here; they're all great. It's just finding that right fit. But I do think those are the two big things. And they think also just recognizing with the small program thing that we were talking about, like I also I trained under ed at Rainbow. So like I that small program I really liked it, but I did also like that I had peds friends and I had adult neuro friends. And like so if that small program feeling is a little bit like, ooh, that feels like maybe I might be all alone, like you really aren't. You're part of this much bigger community and it actually expands really quickly when you start to think about it growing on both sides too.
One thing about training that I always tell people too is we can teach you, like our job is to teach you how to approach patients, how to think about patients, how to think about the differential. But no matter how busy you are, if you're the busiest attending working for 40 years, you're still never going to see every rare genetic disease that exists in child neurology. Like there's just too many of them, and they're so uncommon. But you have to know enough about them to recognize them. And so, one of the things I always tell people is your job is to like think about the patients. You guys are medical students. You've already learned how to be a good resident. I have my check boxes. This is what I do to get through my day. But that makes you a good resident. In the end, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be thinking, okay, not just like this is what I need to do. You're going to be thinking about your patients and trying to understand about your patients. One of the things that I did during my training is one of the things I always tell people within a relatively short period of time, you're going to have the correct differential diagnosis on your differential. Your attending is going to get there much faster than you are. And your job is to figure out how did they do that? And you do that by asking them, like, I thought about this, but I also thought about this and this. And then they would explain, well, it's because of this age and because of the reflexes and like they're going to get there much faster. But you need to be thinking about that stuff, on your own and trying to understand that and then reading because again, I can't teach you all of child neurology because there's just too much of it. You have to be, and you have to go through that thought process and trying to understand your patients and things like that. So in the end, the most important aspect of your training is you. It's what you think about your patients, thinking about how is this different than the last thing I saw, who had a similar condition. What else could this be? Let's do some reading on that. So I always say that too to reassure you that if you don't get your first choice, you're still going to get excellent training no matter where you go. Because it's all about the effort you put into it.
Yeah, and I think my colleagues have said most of the important things here. I think, it's mostly about fit. Like we've said several times, we want you guys to be happy in our programs as much as we want to be happy with you as residents. People who've made it through medical school and are passionate about child neurology, we just want them to do well and to be great child neurologists and join our community. I think, you need to, if you want to come to Winston-Salem, you need to be okay with being in a medium-sized, smaller city. That's, in a short drive of bigger cities. That's a huge part of your life. You need to make sure, I think everyone is valuing probably, how close they are to family and support systems. That has to come into the equation. We can work with lots of different residents, and we have worked with lots of different residents, as all of us have. Lots of different personality types. Everybody we train is unique. And there's not only one person who can fit into these very supportive environments where people are just passionate about teaching you child neurology. So I want somebody who's passionate about child neurology and happy to be in one place and living in our area and in our city.
The city does matter because one thing that I always tell people is you work really hard all the time, but when you're not working your time is your own, and so you do have time to go do stuff, so you want to be happy in the city you're in. So one of the examples I always give to people is if you've always wanted to live in New York City, if you're single or have a significant other and if you can get housing, it's probably not a bad time to train. If you're thinking about having children when you're in training and you want to live in New York City, maybe not the best idea because I lived in Boston. That's where I did my training. When we started having kids, it got a lot more expensive. So, think about where you're at in life, and that does play a role in terms of like what you're looking for in terms of where you want to live and things like that. So, it's where you're at in life, the city will vary what kind of city you're looking for.
Hi, thank you so much for your answers. I just wanted to ask if you could expand on um, supports and support systems and mentorship available for students who are interested in residents who are interested in research while they're training.
So yeah, we have a I think probably all of our programs are big academic medical centers where there's lots of research going on from the very basic science up until lots of clinical research. I think that in the first, depending on what course you're taking, obviously there are some people who are PhDs and are going to do 1 year of research prior to doing second, third, fourth, and fifth year. Um, but for the vast majority of trainees, you're going to do most of your research maybe in your second year and then most likely in your fourth and fifth year. Just because the first and the third year, your intern year, and then your first year of adult neurology, unless it's more diluted, are just big adaptations. And of course, your biggest goal during training is to become wonderful clinicians and future child neurologists. But yeah, we've had trainees do a wide variety of research. We don't do as much basic science as probably some programs. But again, I think a lot of that is just based on the trainees that we attract, who are often very interested in medical education and some of the other things that our group is most passionate about. There are training grants that can be obtained at most of our institutions. It is, again, if you have a very specific passion, just like if you're looking into a PhD, it's a good idea to look into what labs there are and whether there's a lab who's doing the very specific thing that you want to do. But I think for most folks, we probably don't need to go too far off into the weeds on that in the 2 minutes that we have left.
Yeah, I think most programs are going to have that kind of approach. And, we have, most places have like a research requirement and a QI requirement. So those kind of things. And again, most places are going to fairly be diverse. Like our people do, sometimes it's clinically oriented research. We've done educationally oriented research. I mean, it really kind of depends on what you're doing. Most people, again, if you have a particular interest in basic science, I agree, that's a different pathway. But if you have that, but those types of things are available in our program. And probably, again, most places are tertiary care centers, especially with like medical schools, academic centers. Usually that type of stuff is available, can be available in most places.
Yeah, I would say we very similar. Research is broadly interpreted in terms of that requirement. And so what you are most interested in, we have faculty that can give you mentorship and guidance. And we have the ability to build a schedule around how deep or not deep you want to do a research project too. There's also a research council that's headed by Peter King, who meets with everybody doing research and then kind of helps match you with people, which is nice. He has a lot of background in clinical research, but also is really good at kind of doing some matchmaking if you're really interested in education research, for example, and some opportunities to practice presenting your work locally at a local day. I think that's very common at many programs, as well as the funds to support travel if you'd like to submit your work, like for the example at the AAN or the CNS. And we had several adult neurology residents presenting at AAN, including doing platform presentations. So it's a really well mentored group of residents and faculty to help people really achieve whatever that goal looks like for them.
Same with us. We don't do as much basic science, but a lot of clinical research. And we get you to the meetings if you're presenting and all that.
I think we've
We
all
do the
seen each
meetings every
other's
day.
residents presenting at all the meetings.
Yeah.
We all want you guys to be there if you want to be there, for sure.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no, you're fine.
All right, that brings us to the top of the hour. I just wanted to say thank you so much to our panelists tonight. We really appreciate your time this evening and answering all the questions. And to the applicants on the call, we have our final child neurology program director panel on Friday night. So look out if you haven't registered for that. You can go to our social media on Instagram or Twitter and register there. And we'll see you on Friday. Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much,
having us.
everyone. Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Forward to seeing everybody in
Thank
interview
you.
season.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.